So let's get going and welcome to this evening's seminar. Welcome on behalf of the CDC. My name is Yvonne Becher. I'm the CE of the CDC, and I'm also a psychologist. So I'm still actively working, as a clinician, and I'm registered as a clinical education and developmental psychologist because my training's been partially in Hong Kong and partially in Australia. So I'm very excited to talk to you about the P1 entry kind of phase that you might be in now or looking at maybe in 2 years time, and preparing your child for that big transition from preschool to P1, preparing yourself and the school. This is not the talk about, the different school options that are out there in Hong Kong. That is going to be a talk we will be giving in September. I'm also focusing primarily, obviously, on the non-Cantonese speakers, the Cantonese speaking side being catered for tomorrow by my colleague Evita, but it will be in Cantonese. But if you're falling in between and you're thinking, it's not your place to be in a Cantonese speaking seminar, that's fine. Then contact us individually. We'd be happy to help you either through Wendy, Evita, or any of my colleagues. But so I'll be focusing on the P1 entry, probably in an international school or English-speaking kind of thinking curriculum. And because that's a little bit different, of course, from the local entry, as you can imagine. So I'm going to take the different perspectives, what the children go through, what you go through, and what the schools might benefit from, and what's in your power to do. So just to give you, though, a little heads up about the CDC, because we have some people from non-CDC environments. So we are an NGO registered for almost 50 years here in Hong Kong. Our mission is to provide for every child and to succeed in their unique learning journey. May it be that they go into mainstream school, may it be they go into mainstream with support, or even a special needs school. Whatever is the journey of that child, we will support. And so for that, we have specialized education programs, assessments, and therapies to, make the best of the potential of the child and, to bring it out and bring them along and, of course, support you. And we do that with English and Chinese speaking programs. And of course, we have parent education, like seminars, support, parenting courses. It's all part of the parcel. And to do that, we keep our groups particularly small with an effort of no more than 1 to 3 adult-child ratio. And we have a big team of all sorts of therapies and backgrounds. So ranging, from the typical ST, speech therapist, OT, to psychologists, ABA specialists, behavior therapists, a music therapist recently joined, and so forth. So we use that interdisciplinary expertise to provide different programs, and we really make them tailor-made. We're looking at the children and see where they're at in their journey. Is it they need more individual programs or group programs? And this is towards the end of their journey with the CDC. That is often geared towards a group program to prepare them to transition more smoothly into a school environment. But of course, they can stay with us once they entered school. No problem there. And then it sometimes becomes more individualized, or some of our focus programs I will talk about later, because they might still want to work on social skills or attention issues and so forth. Okay, so we do all that, like I mentioned here, through the various programs. And this is just a taste that we do with the children here. You can see the small group programs. We go for outings, maybe Disneyland or the beach. And it's all part of the learning as well, to cope in the community. And all that actually helps to prepare them also for the school environment, where they're going to be on their own. And it's a little bit less supported out there and sheltered, right, than what we're used to at home, or maybe even at the CDC. So it is with a view to getting the children independently focusing and working in the school environment. So the big picture, I'll start with the big picture and then work my way down. This is how it's often perceived, that when the children enter the big education system, especially from P1 onwards, it's all that the school and the teachers deal kind of separately with the children. They provide the education, they deal separately with the parents. And then there's communication between the children and parents, kind of a bit of a triangle. What we'd like to see and work towards from the literature and the research is that everybody is in that system together and working supportively. And so, with that dream in mind, let's have a look how that works. What does the literature actually tell us? What would be the ideal transition? And then we see how we match that in Hong Kong. First of all, the supportive administrative measures. So that means it should go smoothly from one institute, from one system to another. Now, that would mean, for example, the social welfare department, some of your children might go through some of their subsidy programs, will or should have all the information smoothly transitioned into the Education Bureau, right? So that happens if you are in the government system. If you're only in the private system and, no government systems apply to you, then that is not applicable. You will have to readmit all the information, the reports. But as of the last 4 or 5 years, the SWD and the EDB, they actually ask for transition of information. So make use of that. There should be close preschool-school collaboration and sharing. Now, that is something I think Hong Kong needs to work on. Unless you're in a through school, then you're starting all over and, have to initiate and be an advocate and be behind that collaboration and sharing. Certainly, we write reports and you get reports maybe from other therapies and outside and use them and transfer them. So there's some power that you have in transferring that knowledge. And of course, it's definitely within your scope to build a positive family school partnership. It should be a partnership. Yes, you're going by the rules of the schools, but you can also tell them what works for you. You're advocating for your child all the time. You're a little bit dependent on the individualized teacher attitude and the practices that they provide to you. But we talk about later that you can still have an input there. It's all about good communication. But if you see those 4 points, then that should be the key or the framework of good transition for children with SEN. Let's see how that works out. So I'm going to take that a little bit up so you can see better. So the transition steps to P1 is not just one big step. It's actually a journey in itself. It starts from open-ended process, and it can take several weeks to much longer. So let's have a look. What does it involve? The parents usually identify a suitable school, or in Hong Kong, it's probably several schools, just to keep your options open. The application goes in, and then, most of you will be in that position now if you've accepted places for September. The admission is successful, and then hopefully comes an orientation. Make use of the orientations that the schools provide and offer. It could be the first week of school. It could be even before. So make good use of that orientation phase. And then, whoops. Okay. But the adjustment is ongoing. It doesn't just start because orientation week is finished. Your child is probably still going to be adjusting for quite a while. And that's not to be underestimated. Yeah. So from a child's perspective, there is actually a lot of change. We take it sometimes easy. We take it for granted as an adult. We just adapt. But for children, it's quite a new world. It's a new environment, totally new people. You are lucky to have some friends transition with you. The routines are absolutely new and different. And there's even different language. We maybe talk a little bit different to children below 6, and when they're younger, then we talk to a P1 person. Yeah, much more adult language. And so like that is also an adaptation, sorry. It depends on different personalities, how they cope. So that's just to say, don't be too impatient. Give them lots and lots of room to adapt. Some children will actually regress a little bit. They become more clingy, a bit more emotional. But I think by the end of September, most of them have adapted. Most of them, I should say. Okay, so you can prepare your child actually in some form and shape. Definitely information of the new environment. They need to kind of know something new is going to happen. And there's going to be a new structure. The days will be longer sometimes, or they might have to go up earlier. You might be doing a school bus or different type of transport. So all of that is worth preparing for. Later on, you hear me talk about social story. So if your child learns best from that kind of introduction, you can put that make an individualized story for your child. So Johnny is not going on the minibus anymore. Well, he's going on a big bus because he's a big boy going to a big school. So it's something he might know, and then you can compare it, right? We used to take the minibus, but now you take the bus, right? So go from their knowledge base. Oops. And then some other useful strategies, if you can talk to the future school, the teachers, obviously, have pictures, take pictures at least from the outside, or if there's orientation, and take pictures inside as well. Go and visit. Go buy the uniforms together. All of that indicates, oh, there's something strange about it, or there's something new about it, but be excited. Be really, really excited, because that transfers onto the children and their sort of like perspective of this new environment and happening. And then a lot of people only think about academic preparation, but that's actually the least that the teachers will be looking for. They want to see a child that is open to learning, not that has already learned academic things. And you can do that easily through play. So I've listed a few things, and play means only occasionally an iPad or computer. So that's my thinking of play. So you can practice, just coloring in arts and craft, and that can be just pure fun, or board games, construction, anything like that. That helps their fine motor skills, which is later on needed for, good pencil grasp. And attention span as well. That is something that would help the children really, really well in the P1 environment. And then, of course, as you play games, any kind of games, there's the turn taking involved, even kicking a ball around. These are the skills that the teachers will be looking at in P1. The tolerance level, accepting someone else's choice. I mean, not even talking about sharing, right? That is kind of falling into that, but also the tolerance that something is different, and we're not just crying. Definitely following instructions. There is a big one. You can practice that playing games like Simon Says, or the grocery shopping game, where you say, hey, I'm going to go and buy bananas. And you have to say, I'm going to go buy bananas and bread, and so forth. And then you take turns and you make it longer. So that builds attention span, memory skills, listening, all that following instruction stuff. Yeah. And then, of course, learning to join others. That is usually a big stumbling block, and you might need to prepare the teachers how to approach a group of children. Do you just barge in? Do you grab the ball? Or, what if they say, no, you can't play with us? What if they say yes? How to ask? That is actually a big practice ground. Later on, I'll mention it might as well now. You might use puppets and play through scenarios, right? Or take them to the playground, see how they do it. And of course, lots and lots of outdoor play. Can't go wrong with that. Develops the brain, the muscles, everything. So you see, there's not much about the academics, is there? But let me talk about that in a second. Other skills that you need, or the child would really benefit to have, is the self-help skills. That is probably a thing that the school will be looking at, or would have looked at even during the admission phase. Sometimes it goes down to eating, and that means opening lunch boxes. Dressing, they might have to change into PE, or they need to change their shoes, that sort of thing. Definitely on the toileting side, they would need to be independent. Unless, of course, they go into a classroom with support or a special needs school, then that will still be supported. But in a mainstream school, no. The independent skills would be including asking adults for help, when to ask for help, rather than sitting there and just sulking or crying or being quiet about it. So that is a big thing. Or packing your bag at school, at home. Yes, you can get the help. But when the teacher says, now pack your bag, you're ready to go home, then that is something then that need to be done, right? Not much support getting there. So useful strategies, of course, you buy sensible equipment, buy lunch boxes that are easy to open and easy to close, the same with the water bottle, and practice but having fun during the summer. Say, oh, we're just going to pretend now. And they're going to easily whinge and whine, and you're not going to give in because you know they're going to benefit from it in a few weeks' time. So let them do it, even if it takes a bit longer. Let them put their shoes on. Just put in that buffer of timing, a little bit of extra. So this would be a good one. Now, let's talk a little bit about the academics, the math, language, and pre-reading. So what is helpful, I would say, is big school vocabulary. Using different words for the same things. For example, some people call it small, some people say tiny, some people will say little. So more and less, these are terms that will be used a lot. Can I have, and then there's going to be a number, can I have 5 pencils? Oh, everybody, or Johnny, can you push the chair in? Can you give everyone 1 pencil? So that's listening to instructions, right? Rather than knowing what's 1 plus 1. So it's all about really about applied. And then reading, they don't need to read. A lot of kids do these days, they do know their alphabet, but just a love for books, or at least a tolerance. There will be library time. They will be going into the library. They will maybe have a teacher read to them, but there might also be quiet time where they're expected to sit down and just sit there with a book. And you can practice that. Just we pretend to have a little library time now. Talk about the story that they read. There's going to be that a lot. Retelling the story or leaving a story open-ended and then asking them to finish it. That's what will be happening a lot in the primary classrooms, actually. You can talk about, and this is the big word vocabulary, big school vocabulary, talk about the book's author, right? What's the title? They're going to talk about this in P1. It's amazing when you go in. And where's the front? What is the cover? You know, all these sort of big words, fiction and non-fiction, that will help them not to be so lost if they've never been exposed to it before they enter P1. So you can start that now over the summer. So of course, library trips. Go to the library and practice being quiet, sitting there with a book for 5 minutes. If they can't do that yet, don't worry, practice. Do it for 2 minutes, stop there. Then next time, 3 minutes. Have a little reward, lots of praise. That is really worth doing. Okay. Any specific academic skills? You're still worried about this? Okay. So do they need to know how to write? If you ask the P1 teachers, maybe in a local school, they will be expected to copy things from the board, the whiteboard or so. Not so much, you know, in sort of other schools, no. But a good, like I said earlier, the good pencil control, that is an important skill to have. So do lots of coloring in, like I said, because it's tricky to unlearn. And when they do more writing later on, they get tired and they're going to have other problems. So watch out for that pencil grip and give them lots of practice. And what about actual math? It's numeracy, it's more the concepts. They don't need to know how to do the 1 plus 1 unless they're probably going to a high level local school, but early numeracy is what's requested, really counting the stairs. What else can you count? Anything in your daily life. Buttons, point out numbers maybe on a calendar and explain what that means. Oh, there's a 1, today is Wednesday. Look, the 1 on the Wednesday, today is the 1st. Look at addresses, look at car numbers and say, oh, what does that mean when you say flat 5A? You know, you mean on the 5th floor. So a lot of that applied stuff. Cooking, reading recipes, that is just wonderful, right? It's really applied math. And in terms of IT skills, do they need to know how to use a computer mouse? Usually no, because actually schools, they stay away from introducing some of these devices very early. So because I heard some parents sometimes say, oh, my child can only swipe, they can't use a mouse. That's okay. They're going to learn that in good time, right? It's going to happen in primary school, but definitely not on day 1 in primary 1. So don't worry about those things. What if your child wants to write and they really thrive on learning their letters, etc.? Now, keep in mind that when they know their alphabet, that is a good rote-learned memory task. But if they actually, even if they can read, do they read just for the fun of it? Fantastic. But do they also read with meaning? Right? So that these are different things. If you want to, yeah, nurture it. There's nothing wrong with that. Apply numbers, like I said, apply them, see if they know what it means to have 5 of something. And what if you take 1 away? So you can build that in a natural way, right? I've got 5 pencils here, and I'm going to give 1 to grandma or something. And how many do I have left? Aha. One little hint is it's useful to focus on letter sounds, not just letter names. So the A, when you think about it, is not much use. It's just that's the name of the letter, but the letter makes a sound as in apple. That makes more sense in terms of learning phonetic skills. A for apple doesn't make sense. For apple makes sense because of the sound, can't think, the sound equivalence. So there. So that's how the phonetics and phonics will actually work for them. So that's just a little hint. So there's the qu for queen, not Q. We don't say queen. Or do we say a fish? No, we say fish. So look at the letter sounds. Okay. So, and if you, again, you have to be cautious. If you do too much teaching of one type and one strategy, you might get caught because the school might use a different approach. So just be careful that if your child learns that way, fantastic, but are they flexible enough, then maybe they have to change when the teacher introduces it. So it could backfire, right? Now, back to the social skills. That is probably a big domain that the teachers will be looking for to make new friends. And like I said earlier, maybe have to play out little scenarios with puppets. That would be helpful. Or just expose them to the real world, the playground, the pool, the clubhouse, the playroom, anything, and just encourage them. And if they don't want to make friends, that's okay too. They will be observing. Right? They will be observing. So, and you can just maybe encourage them, but can't do everything for them. Just give them plenty of opportunities, basically, is what I'm saying. And to find a friend is tricky. That's something they need to learn, but you can only be the facilitator. That means you can model or, just introduce, but you can't force it. So that's something you keep in mind. Lots of play dates. Yep, that means facilitating, but how they play, you can model, you can try, but can't be forced. If you know who's going into your child's school or, into the same classroom even, that would be great. You could maybe start seeing each other or even having a Zoom session or something together. And again, you're facilitating that they know somebody when they can enter the school with a buddy. That makes a big difference, right? Okay, what else? Yes, and let your child make the ultimate choice who they want to be friends with. Can't be forced. Okay, now, so as a parent, just from the child perspective, it'd be great if you can stay really, really positive about it. Talk about what happens in P1. Stress how much fun there's going to be, right? It's not just, oh, you poor thing, you're going to have so much homework and la, 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 la. If there are older siblings around and they keep moaning about that, then you have to counteract that. So definitely don't try and let your child feel the anxiety. So they do sense, if you're really super anxious about it. So try to combat that and practice and have fun over the summer and beyond. So not just stop there, but keep practicing. So that's just from a child's perspective, what would be ideally happening and that you have power and control over. But there's going to be other aspects, right? So when we ask parents, typically over sort of time, I've collected the biggest worries, if you like, that parents will come up with. And of course, it's not adapting to the P1 environment, to the schedule, all the things I just mentioned. But hopefully with some practice or, if you know the school, what approach they take, they will adapt. It's not a dead end. The children will adapt eventually. Or, the worry is cannot take care of themselves, going to the toilet, recess, lunch, all the things, again, covered in the previous half hour. They're not able to catch up in class. So that is an academic worry. If they can do homework, if they can't do their homework, they will definitely fail their exam. And those sort of worry is you need to squash that down. They will follow the pace. And if they don't follow the pace, there are support systems within schools, right? So just wait and see. If you know already they're going to get support, make good use of it. It is okay. Sometimes there's language issues and there's a worry that the teachers and classmates don't understand the child or they make fun of them. That will take time. Sometimes you need to get used about somebody's speech patterns a bit, or tell the teachers, tell the classmates, maybe how the child communicates, or what are keywords that they're using, or maybe what are difficult to understand. Being labeled or discriminated against. Unfortunately, it's a world out there that there is going to be some teasing, some bullying. But if you don't want your child to be labeled, even today I had a conversation with a parent, and the diagnosis was autism, but they said, we're going to disclose to the school, and we're going to ask the school not to disclose it, to the children and use that label around too much, because it's not about the label. They're going to focus on the behaviors that need work. So that was a nice intermediate approach. So you can talk to the school what language you use around that challenge that your child has. Make that known. And then, you get more support that way, actually. Some parents, actually, a lot of them come up and say, what if we've chosen the wrong school? It's not a dead end. There are options. They are limited sometimes for non-Cantonese speakers, but there will be options. So when in doubt, you can also always come back or ask the CDC, and we are not affiliated with anywhere, but we might have an insight into what's happening as a new school opening and so forth. And of course, will they be afraid of going to school in the future? Well, that is everybody's worry, that how is this journey going? And you need to be on top of it every day, every year. I've seen parents who go, oh, my child made it into P1. Oh, I can sit back and relax. Sorry, not the case. Just be aware, just keep monitoring, okay? And then catch things that could make school difficult and hard early in the day. Talk to the teachers. So now let's see what you can do and prevent some of these worries and combat them. So start with the logistics. Have a good structure in place where you know who drops your child off. Your child knows who will drop them off and who picks them up. So that will also combat some of the ambiguity or the anxiety in children. And it's just a good system. A lot of things will fall into place. Try to have a consistent person, or try to have a structure that, it's a routine that makes everybody feel safe and secure. And if there is a change, inevitably, there might be a change, there might be an illness, just talk to the teacher, sorry. And then, and see who can help. Use your support systems. Sometimes they let people go at the beginning. If they're catching a school bus for the first time, they might let the parents on. Some don't, but it's worth asking. Find out where the adult is allowed to go. Are they allowed to go on the bus? Are they going to go beyond the gate and into the classroom? Every school will do that a little bit differently. And maybe there's transition time where at the beginning you can go in and then phase you out and put you further back to the gate. But that is worth a question. So always ask question. No question is ever too silly, especially at the beginning, and it eases your anxiety. Then do ask. The next one, of course, is you need to anticipate a little bit and monitor. If your child needs lots of reassurance, you're going to anticipate some crying. There's, because of all the changes, because of all the transitions, who's going to, like I said, who's going to drop you off, who's going to pick me up, all of that thing, and all that bombardment of new stuff can be a little bit overwhelming. So what sometimes happens, if you put something familiar with the child in their pocket or in their bag, it could be a photo, a family photo, or something from mom and dad. I've used scarves, I've seen keys, or something that's your object, sort of like a lipstick for mom, anything. So it's just it makes it a little bit feel more in touch with home. So you need to work out what's the reassurance and inform the teacher. So if they don't see the child playing with something, and they take it away, and it is that object that you gave them, let them know that there's something in their pocket. Okay. So you need to anticipate a little bit. And of course, monitor your emotions, like now during the transition phase and the prep phase, but definitely for day one, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be big. So the more you monitor your emotions and handle them, then that will also pass on to the children. They can sense how you feel, if you're positive, negative, anxious, and how will you manage that? It's okay if you tears, but distract yourself. Be positive. Um, just remind yourself your child has come a long way. This is a major milestone. It's an exciting one too. Okay, so think 6 months from now, if he's crying, if she's crying and sort of not in line like the other children, it's okay. In 6 months, there will be a different child. Trust me. Okay, so you need to handle that. Go for that cup of coffee you always wanted. That's okay. Now, a big topic is, if you have not done so already, how much are you going to disclose about the challenge or the special needs that your child has? Do you plan to tell them about the special needs? This is sort of a big topic amongst moms all the time. It's encouraged, definitely encouraged. It's better to tell the teacher, it's better to tell the school to what they're dealing with, because A, you want to know if the school has the resources to support your child, and B, the teachers want to find out from the beginning so they can prevent bigger problems to happen. And rather than in 8 weeks' time, and you get that phone call or an email and saying, look, we've been monitoring and we've been wondering and we're puzzled and so forth, right? So that would be really, really helpful if you have a heads up and tell the school and tell the teacher. What you can tell them is about your child. Now, I've had some really, really proactive parents, and they've done some amazing, amazing jobs. And they've given the teacher a list of strengths that the child has, differences, and areas where support is needed. So it's not all about my child cannot do this, my child cannot do that. It's a really, really nice portfolio, if you like, of, look, my child, he's a bit fussy eater. He does not eat this, but he eats that. Or when he gets tired, you will notice because he behaves like this. Or when he repeats a certain word, or if he has sensory issues and needs, right? So the strengths can also be, he's very patient, or he can be very quiet, or when he gets anxious, he loves to hold a book. Anything that will help a teacher. Things that work and don't work. Teachers will appreciate that. Trust me. They would really like, okay, then we can also notice the good behavior, right? Because you want to have all that noted by the teacher. Yes, that child I know how to handle. So that will prevent quite a few stressful scenarios from everybody. Inform the teacher. You can also, over time, you would want to build a trust relationship with the school and the teacher. And you can do that by just becoming involved, go and help in the classroom if that's available at the school, help out on school trips, join the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association. These are all things that will help keep in touch more than, the average sort of scenarios. And you build that better relationship faster. What you don't want to do is be overwhelm the teacher. You are not the only parent in that classroom, sorry, but don't overwhelm and be constantly expecting an email or writing an email, right? It is about good communication, but ask them also, how do they prefer to communicate? Is email okay? Is it once a week okay? So forth. So just talk to the teacher again. That's an easy one. Sometimes they give you that guidance from day one or in an email. There's a lot to prepare anyway. Definitely explore the school resources. If your child has a need, if your child is in whatever environment, whatever school type, explore if the school provides learning support, social support. I mean, there's learning support, right? The academic side, but some of them also have lunch clubs, recess clubs, where they gather the children who find it a bit difficult to join in the playgrounds. Again, you need to find that out. You need to ask. They may not give it to you on a platter. Or is there homework help? Some schools will have an extra little session after school where they provide homework help. So is there therapy in the school? Sometimes you have to pay for that extra, yes, but what is it at all available, or do you have to look elsewhere all the time? How do they use their teaching assistants? That is also an interesting way of finding out, is there a teaching assistant? Okay, what else do we have? Right, then you go to sorry, just want to go back there. And do they implement individual education plans? Sometimes I'm still sometimes surprised that children who come here for an assessment that I assess, then I ask for the IEP, and then they go, no, the school doesn't have one. They kind of have a plan, but you don't have to, but if necessary, ask them, do you think my child should have an individual education plan? That's a plan that says we're going to break down reading into these steps, and in 6 months' time, we want the child to have this. It's a more structured, more detailed approach to their teaching. It can also include social goals, right? We want this child to learn to raise their hand when they want to go to the bathroom. So talk with the teacher about the IEP. That's what we're talking about. But then look at externally also, maybe CDC, maybe somewhere else. You don't need to cut off your individual therapies. Could be in the school, it's nice and convenient, but it could also be you have a long-term relationship with a therapist and you don't want to, cut that off. If you can build it into your timetable, yeah. Or go some early intervention groups like we would provide, that still have the OT, ST in the group environment where the children can still learn. And I just put in some of our timetabling there. That's also, oops, sometimes it rolls and sometimes it doesn't. Oops. Oh, sorry, it's a bit temperamental today. Social skills programs you'll be looking at. Then you will be seeing Lego clubs, for example, which we've recently adopted, and that is a sophisticated social skills group. Some schools actually also offer that in-house. So ask them if they have these sort of clubs. There could be attention sensory groups, handwriting groups. These are just, I can only give you the CDC examples, of course, but there are outside resources. And of course, eventually or periodically, you might want to do psych ed assessments, which most do up to this age of 16, because then we have to switch to a different kind of assessment type. But these are sort of the resources you will be thinking about along the road, right? So important is that you also build relationships maybe with other parents, so that you build your resource system and support system. Listen and talk to your child as well. It's not all about like, so how was your day, darling? What did you do? Very often you will not get an answer. It's okay, or nothing at all. You will have to extract that maybe from their friends, from the teacher, from what they bring home in writing. Definitely talk about their friends, talk to them what you have observed, and celebrate their successes. All these things that we do, but don't pester, right? That means forcing them to say, tell me. They're not going to. That's a typical thing. You have to be extremely patient. Everyone learns differently, but become involved in a way of incidental teaching, looking things up on the computer, looking things up when a word is difficult in a library, in an old-fashioned dictionary, on the phone. All these things that, give them independence in learning. That is where you can really, really step in. So show them that learning is important. Sometimes you might want to revert to visual schedules. You might be familiar with them from the CDC. We use them in the classroom a lot. You might have some at home, but they can still help when they enter P1. The visual schedule is often there to give you, it helps the structure. It tells you what's next. It tells you what's coming. It tells you what's the next step. And that could be used for even for dressing, for eating, for meal, for the school day structure. It just helps the transition. We find it reduces anxiety. Oops. Yep, it's definitely, sorry, I'm trying to move on. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Sometimes it goes 10 steps ahead. So it promotes the independence, because you can just look at that schedule. It doesn't just give you structure and the reassurance, but it does actually promote independence, and you know what's happening next. You can say, haha, I know I have to brush my teeth next. And then we take it down with a Velcro strip when it's done. Sometimes you can use pictures or words and help the pre-literacy, and just reinforce the verbal instructions. Okay, so talk to your teacher. Some classrooms do have these visual schedules, or if the teacher doesn't think of it, they go, oh, that's a great idea, right? Let me try and think about it. It could be something in the classroom, it could be something at home. Later on, we can share the PowerPoints, if you like, and then you will see, you click on these. These are some of the visual schedule sources and resources that you can actually order, or you can just make them at home. Just do your own BYO. And then there's some books, lots of reading of books I mentioned earlier. That's for the child's benefit, for learning to read, of love of books, that sort of thing. But these are also books talking about transitioning into school that you might find useful. These are just some examples. They're not, I'm not saying they're the best, but there are books around talking about starting school and so forth. And of course, like I mentioned, social stories, right? Social stories, basically, they tell the story of the child. They're individualized, and you can just make them up with putting in, you could put in real photos of your child. You can write the text, just one sentence a page or something, but it's all positive, and it has coping skills in there. So social stories are really used for social situations, hence the name. And it takes those circumstances and make it very positive, calming. They're not there to change behaviors. They are there to clarify social expectations. So when you go to school, this is what happens. When the teacher says your name, you need to look and listen. When the teacher talks to the whole group, eyes on the teacher. Yeah, so every little nuance is explained. Sometimes we take for granted, we don't take time or effort to explain to the children. But in a story, it's totally okay to go into that detail, right? Yeah. Then also don't forget, things may not work out, or you're still looking for maybe different school types, or what's in the school world out there in Hong Kong. The EDB has now ramped up quite their SEN site, even in English, which is great. And this one is just a starter. It talks about the different types of special educational needs. That's just a start. But it has, once you're on that website part, you can click on all sorts of different resources, local and, of course, non-local, non-Cantonese as well. If you happen to look at Cantonese speaking options, it's not too bad. There are some schools that make an effort. There are government schools, they have SEN support, and sometimes they have non-Cantonese speaking support as well, right? So there's a lot of that going on, but you need to do your research. And you need to go to the school, you need to talk to the school how they use those resources. They all have access to those resources, but how they use them, that's the difference. So that actually brings me back to way back when we choosing a school. Hopefully you always choose a school by visiting them and see how you gel with them. But that's something, you do prior to this. So now you already have your schools, I guess. But just in case you need that resource from the EDB, that's also a good one to have. Okay, I do want to leave some time maybe for questions. Just another hint we have on our website. This is our webpage when you open it, and there's something called SEN networks. And when you click on them, they're usually put on community events that we're aware of. So that could be also another resource that you keep in touch with what's out there. It might be talks about ADHD. It's talks about this, that, and the other. So if there's something in SEN related in town, we usually put it there. Or, in other schools and institutions can also put something there if they know of something or they host something. So that's how sometimes you could find out, about other things in town that are happening and building a network. Of course, contact us, follow us. We put a lot on our social media when something is in town. So there could be another option of finding out what we're doing also. It's like these seminars. More and more we make these seminars available to outside CDC parents as well. So, if you're with us now and you're thinking of leaving, or you have to leave soon because of P1, stay in touch. A lot of the things will still be useful, hopefully, to you in the future. Okay, so with that, I hope that I've given you a bit of hope and confidence for a happy transition into primary school. It is a big milestone, no doubt about it. It's exciting. And hopefully when you look back, it will be a rewarding time. Primary school is actually one of the best fun times in a child's journey. So having been there, I know. But I would like to leave some time for for questions. You could type in, or you can just use the Zoom channel and just talk to us. So that's absolutely fine. Before I forget, I like to say thank you if you need to jump off. If you want to give us some feedback, or also if you want to leave your contact details, that we can be in touch later, and vice versa. If we can't cover all your personal questions or individual questions tonight, then we'd be more than happy for you to contact us and talk to either our social worker, Wendy, Evita, who's our head of services and SEN teacher, myself, and any of our therapists and teachers, or social care, special childcare workers. There you go.